Okay, welcome to the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting of Tuesday, June the 10th, 2025. We're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start out by calling the roll. Alderman Barnhill.
Present.
Alderman Blanton.
Here.
Alderman Caesar.
Here.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
Alderman Berger. Alderman Brown.
Present.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Present.
And the mayor's here, and I know Alderman Berger is somewhere in here, so we'll recognize her when she comes back. We're going to begin with the invocation tonight. I'll ask Alderman Barnhill to offer that. I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. For all rise, and Alderman Barnhill.
Would you bow? Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight in prayer, thanking you for this great nation that we live in. We know that there's a lot of conflict going on now. There's a lot of problems that we have. We pray that you be with our world leaders, give them spiritual guidance. We know also that we have difficult times in cities and places around. Be with those citizens that are being displaced and being marginalized. We ask that you be with the citizens of Franklin, because we know that this is truly a blessed community. We ask your blessings upon that. We also ask your blessings upon each of us as aldermen. The decisions that we make, we provide the guidance, direction for the city of Franklin. Give us also spiritual wisdom and guidance. This prayer we offer in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is to set the order of the agenda, and I would entertain a motion to set the order of the agenda. Alderman Blanton, you're recognized.
Mayor, hold on, let me pull up the number. I apologize. I would love to move Leah White, the installation of her for the Franklin Transit Board item, to the top. Number one.
Move it into four position.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Is there a second? Second of Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to citizen comments. I have three citizens that want to speak on an item that's not on the agenda. I'm going to ask Carrie Jennings, Angela Park, and
Not yet. Excuse me. She misunderstood.
okay.
Yeah, we'll get to you in just a minute.
There you go. Okay, a little disruption, and then Mr. Pack, or Park, I can't quite read your writing, so if you'll come up, you have 2 minutes each.
Hi, I'm Angela Park. I live over at in the Cross Creek track at 1175 Cross Creek Drive. Our track is between Carruthers Glen, the new build, and to the east is Coletta Park. We have, just as a group, we're all residents, so we have many concerns about the explosives that are going on. Carrie actually has video. I believe this is at 2 a.m. in the morning, where there is building going on. She has the video right here.
And this construction site, the Carruthers Glen construction site, is connected to my backyard, my property. So this is a constant disruption in our life, in our home. We have 3 autistic people in our home. And so this has just been an absolute nightmare. But I do have video of that and how close that they are connected to
Is she able to play the video?
No,
No,
but
okay.
you can send that video to the recorder at the city of recorder at franklintn.gov, and that can be distributed to the aldermen and staff.
So Carrie's mentioned to me that she has actual contact with the representative of the builder. She's had numerous texts back and forth. She's been, do you want to tell them some of the things they've said?
My main concern is I'm trying to find out, because they are connected to my property. All they have to do is walk through bushes now, and they're in my backyard. So now that these are apartments and not condos as we originally thought they were going to be. We have random people now that are going to be in and out that have access to my property, you know, and it's a safety issue for me. I've tried to find out what are your plans to keep the property separate to make sure that we have some kind of safety and separation from that, where, you know, people can't just climb over something and be in my backyard. My daughter says, you know, when this is done, I'm no longer going to feel safe, you know, and she, you know, so,
Can you tell them what the gentleman said to you that you were just telling me?
yeah, I tried for 4 months to get in contact with the company to find out, you know, what are your plans, you know, trying to go about it the right way. I tried to contact the person who there's an on-site person that gave me a phone number to call to contact. And for 4 months, that person did not respond. I put an email and a voicemail to the actual contract company, and 30 minutes later, I got a call cussing me out, asking me who did I think I was, you know, making him look bad, different things like that. No answers. Just a 10-minute barrage of, do you think it's a good idea to make the person mad that might be able to help you? Like, almost a threat. You know, kind of a thing. So,
Back behind my
Yeah.
property, so that's the new build, that's Old Adams Farm behind my property. And I've called the sheriff out there. I started calling the sheriff out there because no one in our track knew what to do. We first called the fire. And of course, we're county, tucked in between these two properties. So if they can't get a fire representative out there, they send the sheriff. And when I spoke to the sheriff, I said, you know, I'm not interested in taking all of your time away having this happen all the time, but my concern is that even someone who doesn't have these challenges like she does and her children do and many other people I've found in our track, boy, does it catch you off guard. You really feel like you are in a war zone twice. And, you know, I have a heart issue already, but twice, this has really caught me off guard when one of the times I was just sitting in my dining room and the explosion was so bad, it came up through my legs. I want to go real quickly,
if you'll
because
keep finishing up.
because the officer did tell me that they are supposed to be notified. The fire department is supposed to be notified. I asked him both times, were you ever notified? And he said no. So our concerns are, how can we get this particular builder, at least behind me, to give us texts as owners, to text us, to at least give us an idea, okay, we're going to be blasting between 3 and 4, because this is really causing a lot of distress. I have to say one more thing. We're going to share our minutes here real quick, and I'm going to use my husband's minutes. The biggest concern for me, to be very honest, other than the nervousness and what comes with the explosions, because I understand they're building, so we understand, you know, these things are going to happen. My biggest concern that first started was over on her side, so it would be the west side over at Coletta Park, and, Carruthers Glen. I started, because I photograph wildlife, I started seeing fawns and deer that were completely broken in their legs, brand new baby fawns. So my neighbor, who lives right at the end of Biltmore, she said, Angela, it's because they're blasting and they have drop-offs and they're not putting up proper shielding. So in the middle of the night, deer, another animal, walking, and there's a huge drop-off. Huge. You can go see it. We photographed it. They are walking past this made-up silk fencing that has holes in it, and it's orange. Well, it's not only pitch black. A white-tailed deer can't see orange. They see it as dark brown. So what's happened is I have photographed these deer. It'll break your heart. And I know that these could also be children. These could be children. They could be little Bobby, who's not supposed to be there, with his friends running across this. Mama
Yes,
doesn't
ma'am.
know
If
where
you'll
he's
go ahead
at.
and finish,
Okay?
please.
So if we could please just find out mainly about the texting. And I was hoping that someone could become a representative because, you know, when you're being cussed out and when you have these types of things happen, you know, we need someone to be a representative to help us.
and my main concern is just finding out what their plans are about making sure that there's some kind of barrier where people can't just walk into the
Well,
property.
city staff is listening, and that information will be passed along. We've got your contact information. And if you'll send that video to the recorder at franklintn.gov. And did you want to ask a question, Mr.
No,
Stone?
just say real quick, we'll get you a contact with city staff. We can work through some specifics related to this. Also, one thing just in terms of blasting in the state of Tennessee related to projects, that is overseen by the state fire marshal. We can get you in contact with that as well. But we'll also look into specifics around this development and other information. So we'll get with you and provide some follow-up.
Okay, thank you very
And
much.
Vernon Gerth's right here. He can be a good resource for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is communications. I have none from the Williamson County Commission. We'll go to approval of the minutes, consideration of approval of minutes from May the 13th work session, Board of Mayor and Alderman, May the 27th work session, Board of Mayor and Alderman. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Seconded by Alderman Caesar. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Potts.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts, excuse
Yes.
me, and Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to recognitions, and I would ask Mike Nixon to come up. And it's okay to bring your wife and family with you. Mike has been shocked tonight to find out that he's here on some ruse, other than, yeah, stand right here. So Mike is a citizen of Franklin, and so I want to correct something that has already been said, that he lives in Nashville. He does not live in Nashville, so, and you'll understand why in just a minute. But whereas Mike Nixon of Franklin has the rare distinction of being the first and currently only one of 2 golfers who have completed the U.S. Junior, the U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Mid-Amateur, and the U.S. Pub Links, and the U.S. Senior Amateur, which he accomplished over the span of 52 years. And my age. Whereas he graduated from Memphis State University and turned professional in 1972 and then played the European Tour in 1975, twice made it into the PGA Tour, and won over 25 local, state, and regional professional golf events over the next decade before settling into his career as a real estate developer in 1983. Whereas he won the Tennessee PGA Professional Championship in 1980 and 81, the Tennessee Senior State Open in 2017, as well as every super senior title the Tennessee Golf Association offers, including 2014, 2020, 2021 Super Senior Floorball, the 2015 and 2023 Super Senior Amateur, and the 2020 Super Senior Match Play. Whereas he won the SOS National SSR Championship in 2015, was ranked in Golf Week's top 10 senior amateurs from 2003 and 2005, and was the top-ranked player over the age of 65 in the World Amateur Rankings in 2015 and 16. He was the long drive champion, I think, in 1976, and whereas from 2011 to 2022 he held the Director of Golf Operations for the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation and Tennessee State Parks, which tasked him with overseeing 9 state park golf courses. What a burden. Whereas under the leadership, he led significant improvements to the courses, and most recently, Bear Trace at Harrison Bay received the prestigious Golf Digest Green Star Award for its use of TVA Clean Energy grants. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Ken Moore, the Mayor of the City of Franklin, and the esteemed Board of Aldermen, and hereby profoundly proud to celebrate Mike Nixon on his induction into the Tennessee Golf Hall of Fame. He's actually number 58, intended to honor men and women whose outstanding contributions have made golf a better game in Tennessee this 10th day of June 2025. And Mike, congratulations.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, you're already up here.
Dick, come up here.
We'll
and
head it right up there if you guys want to do it.
We're going to go right up here.
A little bit more room for me as well.
We've got Dick Horton from the Tennessee Golf Foundation.
Come on. Have you got nothing to do?
You want the rest of the family? You want the rest of the family? Okay.
They're not calling you.
Mayor, does he know what the mayor's cup is?
Well, he's gonna be on my team.
I figured that.
It could be me.
This is for you, this isn't for me.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Dick.
Thank y'all, everybody. Very much, I appreciate it. Congratulations.
Are there any other miscellaneous reports as I go back to my seat?
Just one real quick, Mayor. Next Wednesday, June 18th, we have the honor of cutting a ribbon for Bicentennial Park. Woo! It's exciting. I hope you've seen some of the images we've put out. It's going to be a beautiful facility. We're proud to show it off. Our Parks team can't wait to do that with everybody at 4 p.m. next Wednesday, June 18th. It'll be exciting. For the record, I have reached out to former Alderman Dana McClendon to let him know it's going on. Those of you that know what I'm talking about. So anyway, we're excited to get that going officially, and it's going to be a great addition to our great park system.
I remember in 2005, we had, was it 5 or 6, we had a presentation on Bicentennial Park. To redo it, and I'm like, wow, we got there.
Vice Mayor, you got a miscellaneous report?
I do, sir. I'd like to recognize Jerry Hatcher and members of our Streets Department. We had a request that came in recently in partnership with one of our county commissioners, and this involved an area, an intersection near Goose Creek, and want to thank all of the team members that went out there, partnered up with the contract team for paving, then also getting that striped as well. So wherever he is here in the room, thank you.
Okay, any other miscellaneous reports? If not, we're going to go to the consent agenda. And all items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature with the governing body. Tonight, we're looking at items 17 through 24. Is there a motion?
So move.
First and seconded by Alderman Baggett. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to the new item number 4, which is appointment of Leah White to the Franklin Transit Authority, and I think you've already seen her when she came up.
Sorry, Leah.
So is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second by Vice Mayor. Any discussion? There she is. I might tell you just a bit about her in that she works with special needs students and is very familiar with the Franklin Transit Authority because that's a lot of what she does is helping them learn how to use the transit system. She's been doing this many years now. And she's going to make great contributions to the Franklin Transit Authority, and we appreciate that. So, ready to vote? Yes. Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Congratulations. The pay is the same as it always been? You can go. Okay, we're going to go to a public hearing. This is a public hearing consideration of ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance to amend the budget of the city of Franklin for FY 2024-25.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. My name is Michael Walters Young, your Chief Budget and Performance Officer. Tonight, we have the third and final amendment to the fiscal 2025 annual operating and capital budget. There are 3 components to this amendment, over 6 different funds. First is the intent to maintain a balanced general fund at year end. Second is to appropriate that we have necessary and appropriate year-end fund balances as defined by the state of Tennessee. And third is appropriate funding and continued cash funding of your approved list of CIP projects. Let us start with the general fund, where there are matching revenue and expense increases of $3,885,838. The revenue increases are as follows. First is an increase in the property tax of $600,000. You'll see when we get to the debt service fund, the final fund, that we had built in an interest payment on the 2025 general obligation bonds that would have hit this fiscal year. But since those were not issued until the spring, that interest payment has not been incurred, and therefore that money is not needed in the debt service fund and is available for expenses in the general fund. Second is an increase in local option sales tax, the budgeted amount by $1.6 million. We had assumed 3% over fiscal 2024's budget when we built it. The city has collected nearly 5.5% more year to date. Third is an increase of our estimate for the state business tax. We're increasing that by $500,000. Our estimate for the last several years has been a little too low. And as we're looking at year-to-date actuals, we feel comfortable that we can increase that. Fourth is simply a pass-through. A grant was received for Franklin's Charge and the acquisition of the Danamark tract by the American Battlefield Trust of $970,935. You will see a matching expense for that on the next slide. And finally is simply an accounting exercise. We have to recognize lease proceeds due to a standard of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board of $214,903. You will see a matching expense for that as well. In expenses, we have personnel modifications of an increase of $1.5 million. The majority of this is a budgeting exercise. When we present a budget to you, which the city administrator will do in just a few minutes for the next fiscal year, built into every department is a 3.5% vacancy adjustment for the assumption that not every department is going to be fully staffed at year end. Now, the reality is some are, some aren't. For those departments where that vacancy adjustment is not realized, we have to make sure there's adequate funding to fully account for the personnel costs. And that's what the lion's share of this $1.5 million is. There's also extra money needed to pay for the city's portion of costs for extra duty, for special events, overfills in the fire department, and retirement payouts. We do not budget retirement payouts in departments. We budget them within general expenses and then transfer those monies out because you don't know who's going to retire where at what time. Expense cost modifications include a decrease of $112,000. That's $175,000 increase in fire operations, primarily for the repair of vehicles and equipment, an increase of $700,000 in facilities, which is the transfer of utility costs to that centralized budget, and a net decrease of $1,075,000 in the traffic operations center budget as a result of grant-funded projects being deferred and not fully completed in fiscal 25. Third is the aforementioned transfer and pass-through to Franklin's Charge. And fourth is a transfer of $1.5 million to the Stormwater Fund. As you know, the City of Franklin maintains an operational fund in the Stormwater Fund. The fee was last adjusted in 2022 and last studied in 2018. It covers only operating costs, and over time, that fund balance has gone down and down. This transfer will adequately cover costs for the end of fiscal 25 and for fiscal 26. We commit in our work plan, the Office of Budget and Performance, as well as with Administration and Public Works, to do a cost of service study during the course of fiscal 26 and present that back to the Budget and Finance Committee, as well as to all of you for the fiscal 27 budget. Second fund is the Road Impact Fund. It's an increase of $11 million in cost in order to transfer funding for 3 projects. $2.5 million from Collector Area 1 for Jordan Road improvements, which you heard tonight are $65,000 cheaper than we had thought. $3.5 million from Collector Area 2 road impact fees for Long Lane and Paytonsville road improvements, and $5 million from arterial road impact fees for East McEwen Phase 4 improvements. Keep in mind that, yes, over $30 million of the project is covered with grants, but grants are reimbursable. So we need to make sure that we have some cash flow to begin that project, which we have. Third is the city facilities tax. It's an increase of $3,033,000, $33,800 for mower and parks that was budgeted in fiscal 24, but wasn't received until this fiscal year. and a transfer of $3 million to the Capital Projects Fund for cash funding of Bicentennial Park, which, as you heard, we will cut the ribbon on in next week. The fourth fund is the Stormwater Fund, as I mentioned, a transfer of $1.5 million in. The fifth fund is the Hotel Motel Fund, a transfer of $1 million to fund the improvements approved in the CIP of the main barn at Harlansdale. And the sixth and final fund is the Debt Service Fund, both revenues and expenses going down by $600,000. On the screen, you can see fund balance changes. The General Fund and the Debt Service Fund have no change. The Road Impact Fund, City Facilities Tax Fund, and Hotel Motel Fund see decreases in their year-end fund balance. And the Stormwater Fund sees an increase of $1.5 million in its fund balance. That, Mr. Mayor, is the final budget amendment of the year. I'm happy to stand for any questions from the board.
Is there anyone from the public that wants to speak to this body on ordinance 2025-12? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Thank you,
Second.
Alderman Blanton, second by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion? Seeing none, you ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton. Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item number 5, this is a public hearing. Consideration ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance to the City of Franklin, Tennessee, adopting a budget for FY 2025-26, providing an effective date.
Do you want me to go ahead and start with the presentation? All right.
Yeah, so
As-
this is the public hearing. You make your presentation,
Yes.
and then we'll see if there's any public.
All righty. So, thank you and good evening. It's my privilege to present to you this evening the recommended 2026 proposed budget as recommended by your city administrator. It's one of my responsibilities to provide that to you. This has been a involved, informed process. It started in December publicly when you all established a series of budget goals that we strive to meet through what is proposed to you this evening and that you will vote on later this evening. From there, you saw revenue models in January, and then February, March, and April, you heard each department present to the Budget and Finance Committee their needs, the needs of the community, and their vision for how to move forward. So tonight, we bring this budget to you. I'm going to walk through our overall focus, some key components within the general fund, talk about especially where we are with property tax, and really, this next presentation covers the next 6 items on your agenda. The budget itself is over 440 pages long, fully available to folks online. We have the presentation I made to the Budget and Finance Committee back in May. We also have this presentation that is at your places and available to folks online. And we have the handy one-page summary that you should have at your place as well, actually front and back summary that Michael and the budget team put together. So when we look at this budget, along with the many budget goals, I really summarize those in these 4 broad categories, which are somewhat evergreen. We want to provide high-quality services. We want to have capacity to meet current and future needs, and especially focus on delivering quality of life and meeting those needs, investing in and planning for the future, and to be highly competitive in every aspect of what that means. Quality of life for our residents, a great environment to build your life, build your business. Specifically within this budget were 2 other additional goals that were really primary in our minds, to meet the opportunity of funding partnerships with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for major roadway improvements in our community as they have expanded their horizons and partnerships, both public-private, but also with other governmental entities. We wanted to put a strong capacity forward to do that in impacting our road network. And then the final piece, to update our compensation plan for our city team members. We try to update that every 3 to 4 years. It's been 3 years. A lot has happened. We want to be a highly competitive employer in the marketplace. The budget itself is $243.3 million across all funds. That's a slight decrease, about 2.7% from the budget that you just heard described in terms of the updated budget, amended budget for fiscal '25. The general fund itself is an increase. It's at $128.1 million. That is a 9.7% increase. 6% is directly attributable to contributions to capital projects, and we'll talk a little more about that as we talk about the property tax rate. This is a unique year. Every 4 years, Williamson County reappraises property across the community. That reappraisal took place here in 2025, and that information was recently shared with us. The outcome is an increase in our total tax base assessment from $7.6 billion to $10.75 billion. So that's a well over $3 billion increase in just 4 years. That's the largest increase in a reappraisal in the city's history. This has meanings in terms of how the property tax rate works and functions going forward. In the current budget, a penny of property tax generates about $750,000. Under this updated reappraisal, that penny now generates $1.05 million. So our current tax rate today, that's 32.61 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, that now would drop down to a new certified rate of 23.1 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. So as we look at this, there's an opportunity to kind of recalibrate how we use the property tax to meet community goals and serve the community better. This creates an opportunity for dedicated property tax capacity to advance crucial infrastructure needs and to enhance our services now and into the future. Specifically, there's an opportunity to partner with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, the state of Tennessee, in improving, widening Mack Hatcher Southeast. This is the stretch of Mack Hatcher from Murfreesboro Road down to Columbia Avenue from 2 lanes to 4. That has been included as one of only 14 partnership programs in the state's 10-year capital investment plan. It also creates an opportunity for other capital investments. And yes, we have also submitted to the State Department of Transportation the widening of Mack Hatcher Northwest. That's the area from Hillsborough Road over to New Highway 96 west near West Haven. It does also, a component of this helps us with service needs in the community, specifically in the areas of public safety, and I think within the next year or two also in staffing in our public works function. This is a update, if you will, of the Invest Franklin initiative that we did 9 years ago in 2016. It became the backbone of our 10-year capital plan and set a tax rate that we have lived with for the last 9 years in terms of service delivery in providing capital projects, and like I said, has been a key component in the over $500 million 10-year capital plan that the board works with today. So the specifics of how this recommended budget works out with your updated property tax rate, I have recommended a property tax rate of 32 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, and that breaks out into 3 components. The existing funding that we use today in our budget for existing operations and the already approved Invest Franklin capital projects, that's the 23.1 cents. That's the revised certified rate. Then there are 2 additional components that we're proposing in this budget, 6.8 cents to what we're calling Invest Franklin 2.0. This is the opportunity to update our capital capacity and dedicated funding, and this would go towards specifically the match that we've committed to of $50 million for the widening of Mack Hatcher Southeast, and also capacity for other capital investment projects, including future partnership opportunities with the state of Tennessee. I do want to stress this 6.8 cents is dedicated to capital projects. It will be placed in the budget and transferred to the capital projects fund. It is protected for that purpose and that use in this budget. It is not moved to other needs and other places. It goes into funding your broader capital investment plan, and this additional capacity aligns with the commitment we've made with the state of Tennessee for $50 million of this, capacity of this for the southeast widening of Mack Hatcher. The other component is for city operations. There's 2.1 cents to fund city operations and service delivery improvements that are needed in a growing community. Specifically, the primary driver of that is public safety needs, and you'll see that reflected in the budget, and I'll cover that in just a couple slides. And then the final piece is updating our hotel occupancy tax rate by 1%. We have a special authority that was granted to the city over 20 years ago to go to a maximum of 5%. This would move us from 4% to 5%, and that's a capacity of about $1.2 to $1.3 million that would go into supporting especially parks improvements and other improvements that have a positive impact in supporting tourism in our community. One other comment on that, on the property tax overall, just to give you some context. With the new reappraisal, the average home value in the city of Franklin is just over $1 million, $1,040,000. The proposed 32 cents would add $231 to the city property tax component going forward. That calculates out to about 63 cents a day for the owner of $1 million plus home. We don't take lightly the tax impact that we make and the decisions we make in recommending it to you, but feel that increase, which is not significant on the day-to-day basis, can have significant impact going forward, both with capital projects but also service delivery for our community and continuing to provide a high quality of service to the citizens of Franklin. All right, the next several slides I'll go through very quickly. There's some highlights of especially the general fund budget. It's balanced. It complies with your policies in terms of debt and reserves. We enhance and maintain key service levels. We've talked about the Invest Franklin 2.0 opportunity that dedicates funding for critical infrastructure needs and service enhancements, and it still maintains us as one of the very lowest property tax rates in Tennessee and compared to competitive cities across the country. We were able to fund a number of program enhancements. Those are improvements that our departments request. Specifically, there are 10 new positions across all funds, but within the general fund, and this is where the component of dedicated funding through the Invest Franklin 2.0 initiative comes in, we've added 8 positions, 7 of which are directly related to public safety. That includes 3 new on-shift firefighter positions and 4 positions within the police department. 3 patrol officers, and 1 new position, a victim support counselor position. And then finally, the last position in the general fund is a information systems development position within IT. The other components are a additional operator within sanitation. We need to add a route to deal with the community growth and provide for the collection of curbside waste and recycling. And then we are adding a fiscal affairs manager to our water management utility. This $50+ million utility, I think it well deserves a dedicated position to help monitor, manage the fiscal affairs. We have similar positions in both police and fire, and it makes sense to add it in water as well. For our employees, the next couple slides touch on that, next couple bullets. We're able to maintain our health insurance. We're able to do that with no premium change, but we are changing deductibles for the first time in a long time. I will step back. In terms of program enhancements, the board was asked for their feedback. Of your top 15, we've been able to fund 13 of your top 15 within the proposed budget. That includes not only these positions, but investment in a new financial system, investment of updates to our data center, the purchase of vehicle barriers to help us on downtown festivals to keep those safe and protect those festival areas, new brine producing equipment for our streets department for those icy days in the winter. All right, a couple other things in terms of compensation. We are fully implementing the updated compensation plan. This moves the entire organization to the same place we moved police and fire a year ago in the budget, to the top 10% of our market targets, so 90th percentile or better. The full cost of the implementation of the compensation plan update is approximately $1 million across all operating funds, and that is fully included in the proposed budget that's before you. In terms of general pay increases, we have a base pay increase of 2.5% for city team members, and then an additional up to 2.5% based on performance to our team members. So folks will be somewhere between 3 and 5% in terms of general pay increase, and probably on average just a little bit above 4%. We will implement a $2 bump in the residential trash and recycling fee. The board has actually already approved that, but that moves forward. And then we do have the water and sewer rate increases that you voted on first reading are also assumed in the budget going into effect January 1 of 2026. Talked about the hotel motel tax increase from 4 to 5% to our maximum permitted level. Again, enhancing our parks, dealing in with projects that enhance our tourism product. The budget throughout includes performance measures. We want to focus on not just what we're spending, but what we're delivering to the citizens. And we focus in on benchmarks of high-performing cities and compare ourselves to where we want to be in terms of performance. The org chart is not dramatically changed, but I will highlight a few things. We have updated the name of one of our departments. We now have not just a Parks Department, but a Parks and Recreation Department that more accurately reflects the full services provided through that team. And so that's included in this budget. No cost involved with that, just an update and a slightly longer title. So we have that. Within the Finance Department, that name stays the same, but we have folded in the purchasing operation. So that had been a standalone office. It is now a division within the Finance Department. We've also updated the title of what we've called our comptroller into the finance director. It's a more modern, contemporary name and also more reflective of the full function that that position provides. All right, quickly run through the charts here that describe both revenue and expenditures. You see here, we make very conservative growth projections, but have made those here. Our sales tax equates to about 52% of our total revenue in the general fund. Property tax just under 16%. That's our second highest. And then the state shared tax, which is a per capita revenue source that comes back from the state of Tennessee, is at number 3 at about 14%. One thing I'll highlight there, that's based on population. There was action in the state legislature this last session that removes the requirement for us to update our population through a special census. That no longer is going to be required. There will be a natural update based on population projections that come out of the Boyd Center at the University of Tennessee that have proven to be very accurate over the years, but removes the time burden, cost burden for communities to go and update their population. We'll just use projections that are updated each year on July 1. And so that's a great improvement, and we're thankful for the state for making that. Another way we look at revenue is consumption. Equates to over 70% of our revenue overall. That is just an important note, and it is a reason why we carry a little higher level of reserves than some of the other cities, because we're so highly dependent on consumption-based taxes, sales taxes, consumption taxes in the area of alcohol and service that way. And those are more susceptible to economic downturns. So having a higher level reserve generally, and that's what your policy reflects, is a smart move, and that is maintained in this budget, as you'll see when we talk about the goals. In terms of where we spend the dollars, you look at the functional areas. Public safety is around 44% of that total expenditure, and then a pretty equal assignment between our public works function, our community and economic development function, and our finance and administration components. When you look at it by expenditure category, nearly 70% of our expenditures go to personnel costs. So that's the salary, benefit, and pension contribution for our team members, equating to about 70%. The balance is operational costs and then ongoing operating capital for equipment that's funded within the general fund. This last slide just shows you the bar chart that gives our performance since 2017 through current day, and you'll see we consistently live within our means. We've been able to contribute every year, even the COVID year, to our reserves each year, building that safeguard in place. We fully comply with your policy and really have additional cash resources because of this level of reserves, up to about $30 million that's eligible for cash funding of capital projects. One of the other things we do after we complete the full budget recommendation is we do a 5-year rollout, projecting out how this plays out over a 5-year projection with pretty conservative estimates on the revenue side. And what's recommended with you in this budget keeps you well within all of your policy guidance and your reserves, well above even 60% reserve levels as we roll out the proposed budget 5 years into the future. It's kind of a pressure testing that we like to do. I won't go through this slide in great detail. This is all the funds. It just shows you where that $243.3 million, how that rolls out. You've got several other operating funds beyond the general fund, as well as funds we use to fund capital projects, impact fee funds, facility funds, et cetera, and how those come through. And again, that's around a 2.7% decrease from the current budget. So I'll just close it out with a summary looking back. This maintains high levels of services. It keeps us in a competitive position. It meets the goals of providing dedicated funding to move infrastructure projects forward. Specifically, our investment in partnership with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for Mack Hatcher Southeast. It fully implements the compensation plan, and it provides capacity for both future partnership opportunities and other projects on your capital investment list. We continue to deliver and focus on the delivery of the projects you've approved. We meet your reserves well above policy levels at around 70%. We had our AAA bond rating confirmed just a couple months ago from both Standard & Poor's and Moody's, which puts us in a very, very elite company. I want to provide my thanks to you, the board, for your guidance and leadership in this process, especially those of you that serve on the Budget and Finance Committee. You spent a lot of hours hearing from departments, hearing from us all as we talk about what the budget could be and that we bring forward today. Our department leadership, not just the department directors, but leaders throughout those departments and folks that work hard to put budget proposals together and put data in the system to help us make good decisions, are fairly newly minted. They've had a whole year under their belt. The budget and performance team leads the way in terms of helping departments put those budgets together. Michael helps lead that team, and we're grateful for the work they put in. I want to thank the assistant city administrators. They put a lot of important input as well, along with our departments, in making these decisions and what I recommend to you. Our Human Resources Department put a lot into this as well, especially given an updated compensation plan, and appreciate their hard work working with our consultant to make sure our numbers are right and we're highly competitive in working with our employees and bringing that forward. That really concludes the budget presentation itself. We added 2 more slides that kind of circle back to your key policy decisions, which is establishing the property tax rate in a reappraisal environment where you want that to be, the establishment of an updated hotel occupancy tax, and then we just talked about our process. You've gone through 1 reading. Tonight is 2nd reading and public hearing. You also, we've provided additional notice around the concept that you would be exceeding the certified rate, so that additional notice has been provided, and the hearing also provides for us meeting those requirements. And then your 3rd and final vote is projected out to June 24th, your 2nd meeting this month, to get this budget in place for the beginning of our fiscal year on July 1st. So that concludes my presentation. Again, I'm grateful for the work of our team, the support of our board, and stand for any questions you have or any other discussion. There'll be several other items as we go through. This first item is the budget approval itself, and then you've got the rate, property tax rate, and the hotel motel tax as well. So we'll be glad to walk through those, each item, if you'd like to as well. So I stand ready for any questions or discussion.
This is a public hearing. Is anyone from the public wants to speak to this body concerning this matter? Ordinance 2025-13. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and entertain a motion. Yes, sir. Typically, just for your information, typically we fill out a speaker card, but you're welcome to come up and speak. No, please. No, I'm not trying to poo-poo you coming, just trying to inform you.
Yeah, that's right.
Give your name and,
My name is David Lurie. I reside at 404 Wandering Trail, which is at the other end of the notorious McEwen Crooked Road, as Alderman Berger knows very well. I wasn't sure I was going to speak, and I'm frankly kind of surprised there aren't more people interested in this issue. It seems like a major one to me, and I feel like kind of a lone voice in the woods here, but I'm going to just state quickly what I have in mind. I've I've kind of followed the rhetoric, and I've heard the talk about the tax rate and so forth. But for me, it's just real simple. As a homeowner, it all comes down to my tax bill. What am I going to actually have to pay in taxes? And my preference in something like this is kind of start with your baseline and build up rather than kind of the discussion I've heard about the 32 cents versus the 29 cents, which to me leaves out the whole discussion about 23 versus a 29 or 32. And I would just ask in terms of perspective, when we talk about putting it in perspective, I would like for the leadership of Franklin to acknowledge when they look at this budget and they look at this proposed tax rate, that in fact, you are building a system that includes a 40% increase in taxes for the homeowner. 40%. Now, in the scheme of things, you know, maybe that's a couple $100, $300, I don't know. But this whole business about the increased valuation, I got to tell you, first of all, I think the valuation of my home is a bit obscene. I don't think it's sustainable, but I recognize that's the housing market. I think that's a volatile situation. But what I can tell you is there's not an additional dime in my bank account as a result of that reassessment, not a penny. So that doesn't enable me to be in a stronger position financially to pay for increased taxes. So, and, you know, when we look at, I understand the cost of living, you know, we all live it. I recognize it's there. I wish somebody could convince the Social Security Administration to, you know, look at maybe something more than 1 or 2% increase per year, but that's what some of us are subjected to. So that's just all I want to say. I just want to ask you to be sensitive to the fact that we hear all these numbers being thrown around, but the bottom line for just your residents is when they get that tax bill. And I'm very concerned. I understand from Alderman Berger that, you know, it's not real clear what's going on with the county and so forth, but that's going to have a cumulative effect on all of us. And when we get that bill, we don't look at, well, what's the city, what's the county? We look at how much have I got to go get, you know, from my savings account to pay for this. I don't know a thing about financing capital projects. I wish and would like to hope that there are ways of doing that, and I'm sure you've looked at many creative ways of doing it. I don't know if the capital portion of this investment is a one-time deal or an ongoing thing, but all I wanted to point out is that the basic budget that we're looking at here, the baseline, and the city administrators clearly pointed out in this document, is the .2310. Everything below that is an add-on. That is an add-on to what's currently being charged the residents
Yes,
of Franklin.
your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other people inspired to come speak? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2025-13, which is the budget for FY 2025-26. Is there a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Alderman Barnhill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Brown. Any discussion?
Got a point of order. Can we approve the budget
Total budget.
as it's written? Because the tax rate item is after the budget. It's kind of a bit, but horse before, you know, cart before the horse maybe, or how do,
Yeah, I was actually gonna text Michael the same question. This is also second reading. So there's still another reading after this. So I don't really know what's gonna happen below this, but we'll have to make changes when, or if we need to. We're at public hearing, so we have today, and then we have one more meeting after this.
might we, I mean, this is just a point of order, so we don't have, should we have moved the tax rate before this, on this night? So,
We don't typically do it that way.
Yeah,
You
you
typically
still-
approve a budget and then you levy the tax to support that budget.
Yeah.
but we
that's-
haven't
that's-
really had the situation before where there's been,
Well, with respect, you do this every time. You set your budget and you set your tax rate that commensurates with it. Now, you're making a decision about where your rate ends up. So there would not be a dramatic difference in the budget
Right.
unless I know the discussion was around somewhere in the 29-cent range versus
Yeah.
32 when we last discussed it. Michael, there might be a modest change in terms of transfers, but the rest of your budget would be...
your expenses are effectively staying pretty much.
Yeah, for the most part, it's a matter of what we move to the capital
capital.
project fund, I believe. But
That is exactly correct. The other thing I would point out is that you amend your budget, and so This, as presented, is a balanced budget with a revenue assumption. If you set a lower tax rate, you could still pass a higher budget, which we would have to amend, which we're going to be amending starting in September anyway, and it'll get to you in October for public hearing, because we already have items we know are not going to come in and we're going to have to amend. So we could still submit this budget to the state for approval and then make that amendment after the fact.
And what you get at third reading could reflect whatever you decide tonight, too. So you've got an opportunity to align it with the multiple readings, really gives you that pathway.
Okay.
So it's a little chicken egg discussion, I get it, but you have the opportunity through third reading. If you made a change at third reading, we might need to have a little more discussion then about public process. But I think you're in a good place, whatever you decide on the next item, that it can be supported in this item. There's minor modification to the transfer.
So moving this forward does not necessarily mean that this is the final budget. It is just
Yes,
if
and
something changes.
it doesn't really, it doesn't fully lock in your rate. We can adjust to the rate you approve in item 6
Okay,
for the next
thank you.
item.
Any other comments? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to item number 6. This is a public hearing consideration of ordinance 2025-14, an ordinance of the City of Franklin, Tennessee, establishing the municipal tax levy for the FY 2025-26, providing an effective date. This is the second of 3 readings. Are there any comments from the public at this time?
Mr. Mayor, this is, as written, this is reflective of the motion that passed 2 weeks ago. So this sets it at 32 cents, just for clarity, because the version of this 2 weeks ago had an option 1 and option 2. This reflects the direction we were given last meeting.
Correct. Well, I'm going to close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second by Alderman Blanton. Any discussion? Alderman Brown.
I wasn't able to be here 2 weeks ago. I apologize, but I wanted to say a couple things first, and then first of all, just a thank you to Michael and the team. I needed to say that despite COVID, inflation, and all of that stuff, I think it's pretty impressive. We've maintained a AAA bond rating, strong reserves. We've stayed conservative. We've had high services still. We increased police pay, fire pay. Great talent in the city. So just kudos to a very well fiscally run city. I think that's pretty phenomenal. I was struck a little bit kind of looking at the tax increase and thinking that, there's a pretty good portion of this that's, yes, the infrastructure that we need around Mac Hatcher, but there's also a part that's in West Franklin that's on our current citizens. Certainly the police and fire, but what's not even really articulated in here is it's something that I've advocated a lot for is we will cut the ribbon, break ground and or reprogram over 300 acres of parkland. And that's an impressive feat for any city. And it's something that we've committed to balance our growth is really opening open space and parkland. Probably 10 miles of trails. And I think we are missing the fact that that's going to cost money to operationalize, to staff and all of that. So, and I think the fact that that we're going to bring that to our current residents as a quality of life measure, it doesn't come at no cost. And so I think we got to make sure that we understand that there is an investment that we're making in our current residents, not just about growth that we're trying to match here. So I was thinking about sort of specifically what does the capital go towards, and what's been identified from TDOT. Look, it's unfortunate that the rules have changed, but Mac Hatcher, I do believe Mac Hatcher needs to get done. What they've identified is the southeast. What they have not identified, let's be really clear, is that 25 million of that project is still unidentified. And so be clear, if we only approve 29, we still have a gap of $25 million on this project, potentially. And here's another thing that I guess I would throw out there too, is You know, I've had a couple constituents reach out and say, you know, do we want to stay ahead of the curve here? You know, Mac Hatcher Northwest, we're going to have a new governor. We're going to have a new TDOT commissioner. In the next 10 years, a lot of things are going to change. And I think it's very likely that we may have a chance to move southeast up faster. Look, if Northwest gets added, do we not want to be ready to go? Do we not want to be aggressive enough to be able to say, hey, well, wait, just give us a minute. We'll get going on what we need to get going for you. Or do we want to be able to say, yeah, we're ready? I guess I'm kind of also thinking maybe Northwest doesn't come. But we've already heard from engineering that they've got some spot improvements for Franklin Road and Mac Hatcher Northwest that they could implement now that would actually go towards, I think, showing the state that we're playing ball, but also really help our residents on the Northwest. If we don't have a Northwest expansion for the next 10 years, we can at least alleviate some pain up there and move some things along up there on the Northwest that this could go towards. I feel like we're kind of saying, well, we can't help you because we can't widen Northwest, so let's just forget about the Northwest. And we have a pain point up there that we're not addressing if we just ignore it altogether. So I'm struggling a little bit with, yes, there are some things we don't know, which is what are the decisions that'll come from new leadership at the state level. But we do know some things. We still know that we need some infrastructure help on the Northwest. We do know that we still have a $25 million gap. We still know that we need to be aggressive. And I'm not sure that a 3 cents difference is something that we should walk away from when we have some knowns that are gaps for us.
I'd like to amend the motion to change the rate to 0.286 cents. 0.286 cents. 0.286 cents. Yeah. That's what it
Appropriate
said.
motion or amendment, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderman Caesar. Would you like to address?
I would. So, a couple things. I appreciate Alderman Brown's comments, and we missed you last time. And like I said last time, this board's great. We've got a great board, and we've got good problems here. We've got real opportunities. This 0.286 cents is encompassed or is inclusive of the 0.231. It's the 0.034 that is for the Mac Hatcher Southeast. And that would take care of our entire $50 million piece of the Mac Hatcher Southeast. And the 0.021 was the operational cost that was in the option one. It's 0.286. Couple things. By not including, with respect, by not including a tax on people for a project that is not yet approved, is not ignoring the fact that, is not ignoring the Northwest, or it is not ignoring that there's a need. It's taxing for something that is not approved. It is a pipe dream to some degree. I think that I feel better, and I said last time, which is, and it was better said maybe by some folks online, like I'm just asking for a receipt for what we're asking for this others. We have it in our current capital plan. One reason why, to some degree, we asked our staff to come back to us with some data, and I've got really encouraging news from staff that they've come up with some really great tools and models for us to show these areas of interest where we can go get and take additional funds, possibly next budget year, and have a receipt to give the public that says, and quite frankly, next year it could be more than that if we can see all these projects where we have properly identified based off of data that these intersections and these streets need to be done and we can move them up quicker. I think the public will buy that every day because they know where they're feeling the pain. I think one reason what's got me motivated about this is, quite frankly, not that the process is wrong, but it's how we rank our capital investment plans now, which is, by and large, us sitting in front of a spreadsheet, or some of us probably printed off, and we rank it based off of you know, well, we heard an anecdote here, or heard an anecdote there, or there's a staff ranking over here, which we take into account, but like, where are people, and we end up, now I've had conversations where we've got a $30 million capital project that's really, engineering is kind of saying that it's probably one or two things. It's not a $30 million fix. It's probably more like a $5 million fix. So I just would feel more comfortable, and I think the public generally has, what I've heard, which is thank you for not taxing us for something that's not going to happen, and for thinking that, hey, we should be taxing for things that are going to happen and are the things that we want. That's where I'm coming from on this. Again, if the state of Tennessee comes and says, if they come tomorrow or July the 2nd and say, we're ready for the Northwest Bridge. Guys, we just figured out how to fix a $7.5 million sewer pipe that broke. We have an $86 million reserve fund. Do you think we're going to be able to scramble around for the $3.5 million or whatever, $7 million, $7.5 million? No, $7.5 million. Now that extra 3.4% brings about $7 million. You think we're going to be able to get by for a year? It's 3.5.
The 6.8 delivers 7 million.
So 3.5
capacity per year.
So this is a $3.5 million. You think we're going to be able to squeak by for a year? Yeah, probably so. Do you think that $3.5 million is going to make us do something revolutionary? I would rather give the people the receipt of what we're going to do. Quite frankly, I think engineering is coming up with some really fantastic things that can help us in, modify the CIP and get something. And I think that's why I'm making that motion. None of this money will go to the operational, except for the 0.021 cents will go to the operational. None of this property tax piece of the 0.034 is going to operations. It's all going straight to capital. That's my perspective. But as I said, unless the public or the newspaper or social media folks think good people can have a differing opinion on this, but that's just how I feel on this, and I think that's probably the best way to move forward.
Anybody else want to address the amendment to the original motion?
Address the amendment, please, sir.
Alderman Caesar.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Patrick, for making this motion. As I was looking at this, I think constituents have come to me, not en masse, as we saw tonight. Just one person shows up to share his or her concerns. However, I've spoken to a few, and one of the questions they said is, why is it just the 32 cent or the 29 cent? What's in between there? And I think what Alderman Baggett has raised is an option that's not 32 and that's not the other one that probably brings together both in a good way, maintaining the 21 cents for operations and looking at projects that are sitting right in front of us that we can act on. Because I'm not different than you, Patrick, and that I would love to give constituents a clear vision and a receipt. You're getting an increase, but we're going to be focused really aggressively on tackling this significant infrastructure concern in our area. And Alderman Brown, you weren't here last meeting, but the discussion in my mind was on the Northwest side, we may never get, in my lifetime, we may never get that Northwest funding, but there are opportunities, I believe, to make spot improvements, as Alderman Baggett talked about, that could help us and help traffic flow through that area. And I don't know that at this time, right now, we know how much that will cost and when it will happen. And so it's tough for me to say, let's just go ahead and collect the money, and then we can find the place and we can allocate it. If the funding does come through from the state, and if that Northwest leg does get approved, I think we will work aggressively and we'll have support of the community who have elected us to be their stewards of their resources. We'll have their support to go and increase that tax. I'm just hesitant to do it today. I do have a comment that's relative to this discussion. I'd like staff to clear it up for me. Alderman Brown talked about a delta of 25 million at the 32 cents or at the reduced rate. Is there still, in fact, a delta if we go to the 28? And what happened? Help me, because I don't know that I'm following the numbers there.
It's not really, it's the project funding from the state of Tennessee for the southeast widening at this point is only 25 million. It needs to be 50. The partnership proposal was 50 million from the city, 50 million from the state. To this point, the state has only included 25 million. So we collectively, state and city, have a $25 million hole in that project. Now, we will pursue funding through the MPO and some resources to come there. There'll be a return review of partnership projects next year. We've been told that happens, so that's an opportunity for filling that $25 million void, but there is a void. And the 6.8 was originally designed to be 100 million of capacity for Northwest and Southeast. So we got Southeast only. It's a $100 million project. This would cover our 50, is still provided for, whichever option you go with, but there is a $25 million void in the project. We're not sure where that comes from. We still want to hold the state's feet to the fire because our proposal was 50-50. It wasn't something different than that. And so that's to be determined still. And then we'll see what also happens a year from now when they look at their updated capital plan. It happened a little later in the cycle this year because of some of the natural disaster impact in the state. So a lot of times that comes out December, January timeframe. So that's just something to know. We will pursue the additional 25 or pursue Northwest. We've also put on the table the interchange improvement at Murfreesboro Road and I-65. I mean, we put those things out there. We've focused on Mac Hatcher because it had a kind of a connection there. But that discussion will continue.
So if I'm understanding, the 6.8 generates enough to cover $100 million in new revenue or $50 million in new revenue?
$100 million.
So
It is designed to provide that.
So if Northwest doesn't come out of the ground, we're 25 million in the black, right? Because there's $100 million in new revenue that's collected.
You have 25 million of capacity for other needs or however you want to proceed with it.
But this is kind of where the Mayor, this is kind of where the consternation comes. Is I'm totally fine with that, but make no, and we've got good people up here and great staff. But once we start allocating that extra 3.4 cents to other things, spot things, this and that we had now kind of been originally planning for that to be for Mac Hatcher Northwest. When we actually do get Mac Hatcher Northwest, it's going to be another 3.4% that goes on top of it. I'm not opposed to even doing that at that time, but I like to have a little bit of idea where this current 3.4% is going. And again, I think we're really close. I actually think, unfortunately, is that if we'd kind of had this data stuff back during the CIP, anyway, it's been a great process, but I think by this time next year, we'll have a great idea of what those projects could be. But I don't view, like you're looking at 25 in the black, then that means we're committing to 75 at the Southeast, and I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
I think TDOT will come through with the other 25. You don't go from nothing to something in that process without real intention to do it.
Yeah, and so, Mayor, I'll finish up here quickly. I appreciate the discussion. I would love to have price points for those spot improvements, and that could potentially change my mind on the amount that I'd be willing to support. We just don't have that right now. And I have a hard time going back to the public and saying, we're doing the Southeast project and these other ones we funded, but we don't really know if it's going to be enough, and we're going to have to come back and ask you for some more. So I feel like it's a little bit, it would be more responsible of us to come back in 2026 and say, this is what those projects cost. This is what Invest Franklin's going to cover and support. And thank you, Mayor.
I've got Alderman Brand, then I'll go to Alderman Barnhill.
Just real quick, because
And I'll get Alderman Peterson too.
make the comment clear, was suggest I was saying fund something that doesn't have a receipt, and it sounds like you have, staff told you something different. I was suggesting that those spot improvements would be paid for out of that money that's generated in this year, because they're not on our CIP. That work on Mac Hatcher, that spot improvement on Franklin Road that would alleviate the pain that we're currently experiencing. My thought was, if we go ahead and make this change, we can go with a receipt to our constituents on the Northwest and say, by the way, they didn't add Northwest to our 10-year plan, but we found a solution for you, and here's what that 3 cents got you. It got you moving through the Northwest, you're not sitting in, miles of traffic anymore, we moved you along. I don't know what that cost is, but that's what I was suggesting. I wasn't suggesting funding something that is unknown or putting money, taxing people for something they don't get. I was saying the receipt I want to give them is spot improvements that get them out of a pain point until we know that Mac Hatcher Northwest comes along. That was my suggestion. Very specific things
Well, we don't
for
have
that.
them. We don't have them, though. We don't have all those spot.
Well, I don't know what the cost
And we
is,
don't have the cost. And so
but we know what the spot improvements can be.
Well, I don't know that we do. And we know a couple of them. The one you're talking about on Mac Hatcher Northwest,
And the Franklin Road.
in Northwest, the bridge, engineering does not think that it is, TDOT's going to approve that for safety reasons because of the line of,
Still working with
still
them.
working through them on that. I'm not saying, I'm not speaking
for them. Yeah.
Sorry, Paul, I'm speaking for you, but I do think there are complications. It's not like, we don't know that that is actual reality, and I think that's where I keep coming back to. I do want to do about $3.5 million. Quite frankly, we got $30 million already funded in our capital investment project that, like, one spot improvement of definitely less than $10 million on South Carruthers would fix that, and you'd have $20 million to do these spot improvements. The money is still, I think there's still money there in our current CIP project. $30 million, I keep talking about it, but we'll get to it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Alderman Barnhill.
I'm not sure whether we're talking to the amendment or not, but I would say this. I don't see how anyone can sit here and go over the 100 or so projects in the capital improvements project and say that they cannot pinpoint something specific that money goes to. I don't think that we're collecting what we need to collect in order to do what we need to do. Now, if you want to do your Boyd Mill, for instance, that you've made the #1 capital improvements project, that you had it #1, do you have that funded?
Yes.
Oh, what did you have to pull off of then in order to get the $10.8 million or whatever you decide you want to do? Or did you just decide that you just halfway do it and do half of a road and half of a sidewalk? Okay, whichever way it was. To get up here and say that we don't have and we're not able to pinpoint specifically what $3.3 million can go to is not being fair to the population of the city of Franklin, and knowing when we have a list of what we've got to do, we have to adjust that. You have an opportunity, Mr. Baggett, to possibly use that money to enhance additional money. You might be able to have a project that comes up at some point in time between now and the next 6 months. I don't necessarily think that the project, the Northwest, I still think that that's an extremely important project. But I also think Franklin Road from Mac Hatcher up to Gateway Village is also an extremely important project. There are other projects here. I don't think that we can go through here and possibly say that there's funding available to do everything that we think we need to do. And to be arguing about or discussing about whether it's 32 or 28, I find that a little bit disappointing. We have come through, you sat through every budget meeting that we had. You sat through the budget meeting the last time. You sat through all of these right here. You've had an opportunity to look, and yet we're now back trying to tell somebody, the public, that we don't have a project that we can put this $3.3 million to. And that is just not accurate.
I've already got Alderman Peterson next.
Well, I think that we are going to need this money, and I think that when you're talking about Mac Hatcher, the first thing is doing southeast to 4 lanes. And that is the thing that we've had to work with the state and add extra money to right there. And to me, that is definitely
definitely would affect more people on the road than Mac Hatcher Northwest. And so we need to be thinking about things like that. As I say, it affects a lot more people. And we need to put our money up and because they've been talking about it, or we've been asking about it. We've been asking about it for years. And now we're finally at a place where when we put extra money in, there maybe we'll start to do it. But as I say, I think we need what has been proposed here, so I would be against the amendment.
Heard next. Alderman Berger.
Well, I think when Armistead comes in, we're going to have a lot of traffic over there, even more so. How many houses are in West Haven? Patrick, do we know? Anybody know?
3,000, 35.
2,600. There you go. Thank you, sir. And then we have Armistead, so it's gonna be pretty tough. I did a poll.
Appreciate no response from the audience. This isn't an open
I'm glad
forum.
I got the number. I'm looking here. I did a poll. I sent out in the last few days mass email. A lot of people talked to me, and I tried to write those down too. But I just came with the ones that I got emails from and some text messages. And I had about, I thought, 6 extra that came in afterwards, and it's actually 16 that I have not counted, so I don't know what they're saying. But I have 140. And I had option 1, 2, 3, and 4. Option 1 was do nothing, stay at 23. Option 2 was go to the 32 cents. Option 3 was go to the 29 cents, and option 4 was, Patrick, yours, 28, that you mentioned last time. Got 9, do nothing. I got 18, go to the 32 cents. Go to the 29 cents at 62, and 71 wanted to go to your 28. So your 28 went out on that, but option 3 at 29 cents was very close. I think you're right. Clyde mentioned, can we point to those things? Yeah, we can. We certainly point to the things, but we don't have the promise. We don't have it written in stone that Northwest will happen anytime soon. We don't even have the promise that we'll have the other 25 million for the Southwest, which we desperately need, and that needs to be fixed because of the high traffic volume there. One of the things that isn't even in play here that I think is actually, I'll go on record just saying it, I know Northwest is really important, and when Armistead comes on, it's going to be even more important. But what's really important, it's not even in this mix, and we've got to work on this. We've got to go to the state, and we have to have some help on this, is Interstate 65 at Murfreesboro Road. Because if we're talking about this amendment, 28 cents here, I think we can do everything we need to do that we know is coming down the pike, especially southeast, when that happens. But if we don't address that interstate, the other day, something happened again. I'm sitting in traffic, and the police car could not get by. Nobody could move out of the way. They sat, and they had their siren going. They couldn't move. The ambulance couldn't move. Police car couldn't move. We're in big trouble. We have a hospital, people. So we want to talk about priorities. That's my number one priority. That is my number one priority. But we've got to figure out, and Patrick, thank you. I think you did a marvelous job of laying it all out. And I think you're right. If Mac Hatcher would come on Northwest, I think we could scurry real fast. And I think we could look at what do we have to borrow. We could take some out of the reserve fund to get us to where we need to be until we can go back to the people and say, hey, it's come. Let's do 3 more cents, whatever. So I think we have some opportunities to do that. I would prefer totally not to raise taxes at all. But the people in our city have asked us get the infrastructure done, move the traffic. But I think we have to be responsible. We've always been fiscally responsible. And we're cutting. We're always looking, and Eric, you're very good at asking your department heads and your departments to cut and to streamline, use technology, and we reward people when we put things into place. So I don't think anybody out in the public can accuse us as not being fiscally conservative and responsible with their money. But I think I will be supporting your 28 cents because I think it's the right thing to do at this moment.
Vice Mayor.
Thanks, sir. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here last week or 2 weeks ago when we met for family graduation. But I did watch, and I watched in detail because I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to speak to this. And I also appreciate how healthy these conversations are tonight. As I sit here, I think about 3.5, 4 years ago when we were running, and I say we because it was the at-large or the ward alderman at the time, number one thing was infrastructure. This is what people wanted. They wanted Mac Hatcher fixed. We now, 3.5 years later, almost 4 years later, we actually have a great opportunity with TDOT to actually make this happen. Now, in a perfect world, it's a TDOT project. Should we need to do a 50-50 split on it? I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. But right now, the way that TDOT is set up, that is the partnership that the city has proposed. Not a 75-25, but a 50-50 split. When I look at the difference between the 3 cents that we're talking about tonight, I agree with what Alderman Barnhill shared a few minutes ago. We have these capital improvement projects, and we can utilize, and the citizens of Franklin have elected us to use those funds to make the improvements to infrastructure because it's the most important thing that they're looking for. I agree with what Alderman Brown was saying a minute ago regarding the spot improvements. We have the opportunity to do those. And so as I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about, there are 3 entities that are AAA rated in Williamson County: Franklin, Brentwood, and Williamson County, those government entities. And if we have a balanced budget, we have the proposal holding at 32 cents, I think that we do this. Alderman Berger, I agree. I don't want to have to increase anybody's taxes. And to the gentleman that spoke earlier, Mr. David, I appreciate what you said in coming here and being that lone wolf, as you said. I think that there's a reason why we have a quality of life here. We have great common sense, conservative elected officials that are here. And they're doing I believe we're doing a great job of balancing preservation and progress right here, and that is part of why this funding is needed, is we need it for infrastructure. So unfortunately, I'm going to oppose the amendment, but I want you to know the passion that I have for making sure that the funding is going to where it's supposed to be.
Alderman Baggett, briefly.
I was called out.
You've gone on pretty long, so I don't know what else you want to add, but please do.
Mayor, we could be here all night. This is the
We can
public's,
be,
this is
we
the
will
public's,
if you
this is the
wanna be.
public's business. This is their money. We don't have
Are
to.
you insinuating that?
No,
don't
but
appreciate-
this is important, and I know
I
you know.
agree it's
I know
important.
you know it's important. I'm doing it. I think the public would probably appreciate that someone's looking out for their pocketbooks. We don't have to worry about what Alderman Barnhill said is exactly right. We have a CIP project list. We don't have to wonder what are we raising people's taxes for. We can just go to the CIP and look, which I just did. The next 2 projects that we're going to be raising this $3.5 million for, now whether you look at the weighted ranking or the other ranking, we're going to go to the public and tell them we're raising it for $430,000. It's going to go to the Collins Farm Structure Stabilization and Roof. And then we might be able to squeeze in the Emergency Services Traffic Technology Project for $3.7 million. That's the next ranked thing on the CIP. Okay? Now you see where I'm coming from? Maybe we need to think about how we're going to spend this $3.5 million. If you're taking the weighted ranking, we can't even get through the next project, which is 22 $0.8 million for Lewisburg Pike, Donaldson Creek to Matt Hatcher. We're going to raise your taxes for Donaldson Creek to Matt Hatcher on Lewisburg Pike. So I hope what you're hearing is not that I don't think we have a list, but is this, I think maybe what I'm saying is maybe if we're going to go to the public to raise taxes, that we need to think about if that juice is worth the squeeze. And that's all I want to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Barnhill, you're recognized.
If you so narrowly focus what you're collecting your taxes for, then you've missed an opportunity possibly for leveraging that money that you've collected against some other funds coming in from some other source. So that's the reason that I don't necessarily am going to try to put a project against what we're raising the taxes for. The taxes that we've got that have been presented to us, there's no way we're going to do what we want to do and need to do anyway. But I think you miss an opportunity if you try to narrowly focus that and give somebody a receipt for what they're getting. And I also think it's probably somewhat irresponsible to say, I'll raise them next year, or I'll raise them next year. If I'm on a budget, which I am continuously, my taxes will be the same after the tax increase, again the next year, and again the next year, hopefully for the next year, because we're going to go 4 years before we do a countywide reappraisal. So you give some stability to the taxes that you're collecting, and the public knows that a politician has never had any problem spending the money. So I don't think that we're going to collect $3 million that we will not know a capital project when it comes up and kind of nips at us a little bit.
Move previous question.
Appropriate motion, is there a second?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your motion.
I just moved previous question to move us to.
He called the question.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ready to vote on the amendment? Alderman Barnhill.
No.
Alderman Blanton.
No.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
No.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
No.
Oh,
Alderman
I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor
I'm sorry.
Potts.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I said yes, I'm sorry.
You voted for the amendment?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Vice Mayor Potts.
No.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Fails 5-3. We'll now go back to the original motion. Any discussion on the original motion to approve? I guess I could put my 2 cents on it because I'm one of, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 board members that have voted for 2 tax increases. And I think those 2 tax increases pretty clearly outlined what we were trying to do for the community. The number one complaint, traffic, transportation, infrastructure. I think this is an opportunity to try to answer those requests from our citizens. And also, I think you're handicapping your city team and the mayor whenever we go to TDOT and we're in those negotiations and the many meetings that we've already had with them working on this. So I hope you'll support the 32 cents. So any other comments? Or are you ready to vote? Okay, ready to vote. Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
No.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
No.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
No.
Again, it passes 5-3. We'll now go to the public hearing Consideration of ordinance 2015-15, an ordinance to amend section 5703 of the Franklin Municipal Code to increase the hotel motel tax from 4% to 5%.
So move.
Anyone wants to speak to this body? If not, I'll close the public hearing, entertain a motion, and that was Alderman Barnhill, and who was the second?
Second.
Alderman Baggett. Any discussion?
Does this get clarified with the state?
We're working on it, and we're hoping in the next 2 weeks, we will have a definitive answer. If not, we are going to try to work, I think, to get an AG opinion either way if we can't work it out. But I think hopefully in the next 2 weeks we'll know something. So I think passing it right now during public hearings is the right thing to do. We still have one more reading, and hopefully in 2 weeks we'll know.
So, yeah, there might be some options for you to think about in 2 weeks, but I think keep moving it. You have an existing private act that allows you to go up to 5%. And that was carved out in legislation that was passed a few years ago. And so that's how we read it. It seems fairly clear, but we want to respect what the comptroller is saying and what some intent of that legislation might have been. And like Shauna said, there may be AG opinions that we work to get, but you might be better served to look at where you are in that process in 2 weeks, and you could always defer. This is not designed to be enacted until January 1, so you have time to get that fully flushed out.
Alderman Blanton. I've got Alderman Blanton, and then I'll go to you.
Sorry. I don't mean to make it even more contentious evening, but I do actually sit on Visit Franklin, and I just have some reservations about this after hearing from our hotel partners. And we, as I understand it, the county cannot go up to 5%, from what I understand. And we're figuring out whether we can or not. I don't want this to be gospel, but from what the feedback we received in a board meeting, our hoteliers are concerned because it is going to price us in the echelon as high as Washington, D.C. Where it will affect us is not our single family or one person coming to visit, but in our group rates. Because when the group rates come out, it really kind of starts compounding the fees, and I get concerned about how that's going to affect us overall in hotel motel tax. And not trying to be out of line or cause any kind of drama, but I feel like, I mean, you're a part of a board for a reason. You sit and hear discussions from people that you're serving. So I'm just concerned about what this does for that, and just wanted to express that concern, and I'm not quite sure if I can carry it through to the finish line.
Alderman Barnhill.
So I missed part of it.
Yes.
So you're saying that there could be some state concern as to whether or not we have the ability to legally raise from 4 to 5%?
Yeah, the comptroller's office reached out to us and cited, I think it was something passed in 2021, if I'm right, something like that, along those lines, that had some cap on 4% per entity, like but specifically carved out cities that had approved under a private act that we were approved under. We remember it at the time and looked at it and said, well, it doesn't affect us because we are in that specific private act. So we thought it was pretty clear. That's why we didn't engage in the issue when it came up before the legislature several years ago. This question has been raised by the comptroller. Shauna had the opportunity to talk with their counsel. They're still looking at it. And so we think there may be some more clarity. There may be a move to just get an AG opinion, which probably makes some sense just to know where we stand. But quite frankly, part of why I brought this forward is we've had this authority for 20 years and we have not gone there. And this is something that we can draw on and get resources from the visitors that come to our community, and Franklin puts those dollars right back into the tourism product. I'm really proud of how we do that. We have our own set-aside fund. It's funded things like the Conference Center, Harlansdale, Eastern Flank, the list goes on. And this could be an opportunity for us to continue to do that in the future. And I fear if we don't get the capacity, it will go away. And so that's part of why we put it in there. I respect the impact And I've seen that before. I've seen that complaint before, but I've never really seen it happen. Just from doing this for 32 years. And I've done a pretty significant increase in Cincinnati on hotel motel tax. That actually, it was the best, most expansive revenue growth that we saw in the middle of the recession, because it contributed to a good tourism product.
Mayor.
So I just share that with you for some context and experience.
I'm not trying to be negative. I think we've been
But we
very
hear it. I know.
blessed
Yes.
to be able to do the projects we have, and for the visitors to our community, we see that contribution that saved our taxpayers every year increase.
That's
I mean, I would assume it's probably going to be approaching almost as much as $2,000, because we've been at 1,500 and it seems to jump. I'm not at all saying that I don't. I'm not very pleased of what we've been able to do.
Yep.
I just think when we have become a community that outprices in so many areas, from our real estate to our housing, and it's like it's starting to feel like it's one more thing, and I just want to be really careful about hitting the acme of everything that we can do, especially when I'm getting feedback from the people who it hurts.
Yep.
So
I would like to make sure that I understand the Washington DC comment.
Sure.
In relation to 1%.
Well, and again, it was what I was told. I'm not a hotelier for a job, but basically what has been said from some of our partners on the board who work in that is, if you start adding 1 more %, when somebody goes to stay in the hotel, their taxes, it was almost like, I don't want to be quoted in the newspaper because it's wrong, but basically with the increase that we might implement, it puts us up in the same echelon as a tax rate on a stay in a hotel night, as high as a city like Washington, D.C.
Just the tax rate, not the.
Yeah, not the room night. Room nights are different. All the different fees.
I still think I'll vote for the increase, though, Mayor, when we get around to voting.
Any other, Alderman Berger? Did you want to be recognized, Alderman Baggett? I couldn't tell.
That,
Okay, thank
after, of course, there's all these other fees on there, but we're talking about the tax. We're talking about the tax on the room.
So it's the tax increase.
So if you have $100, sometimes you can get a room at $100, whatever.
Just round number.
So, yeah, round number. So if you had a $100 room at 4%, you're paying $4. If you have it at 5%, you're paying $5. If you have a $140 room at 4%, you're paying $5.60. It goes up to $7 for a 5% raise. And if you have a $280 room at 4%, you're paying $11.20. At 5%, you're going to pay $14.
And
I just want to give that perspective. I mean, you're not talking about, $20, $30, $40 that you're going to raise this tax.
Alderman
All
Baggett.
I was going to say is that, we just raised taxes on our citizens, and I think our citizens would probably be okay with, not that I'm okay with it, I definitely support tourism. I actually think by doing this, we're going to do things to drive more tourism. I think actually there's opportunities that will help us get niche-y in our tourism pitch, which I've talked to the Visitor Center about too. There's some really cool things we could do with this revenue. But the hoteliers don't pay this tax. The people who come here pay it. And I think Alderman Barnhill said that last time.
Yep.
It's the people who come and stay in the room, we're taxing them. And I respect though that I don't want to be the top of the market either, but I don't think we are going to be the top of the market. We're lower than Nashville, even with this increase, is what I saw. And I think we do need to look at how we compare versus our close regional. But
Sorry, I didn't have better examples.
no, and I would bring it back next time. I would love to hear from the Visitors Bureau that data.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I'll just add that sitting on our Budget and Finance Commission, the thing that we have talked about for about 3 years is how do we raise this? And we've talked to Eric about it. Do we raise 0.25%, 0.5%? And the advisement was, no, you do it a complete 1%. and that's where we're supposed to be. So, we have looked at this, and I feel like it is, I don't think we're going to lose that many people and that many conventions. It used to be in the hotel industry, and 1% on a tax rate. It is something we may hear from the hoteliers, but from TravelWise, I don't think we're going to see our occupancy rates decrease.
Alderman Caesar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine is more just an administrative question. In the law document, it says it goes into effect in January. If we pass this in the next 2 readings, is it just more out of formality that we wait till January to increase the amount and giving the hoteliers time?
That's what we do with a lot of rates. You're doing that with water and sewer rates. It's kind of a standard.
Just to give
pick
notice?
Yeah, and
Okay.
to ramp up, you got to communicate with hoteliers, and there's just some lead time, and you either pick July 1 or January 1 as a typical practice.
Okay.
And felt that was better timing.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody else?
So I was just looking at, Maureen says, we send millions and millions and millions of dollars away every year because we cannot host these conventions. Our convention center is way too small. So we're losing millions of dollars in these conventions. So they're sending them to Nashville, they're sending them to Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro is 5 cents. Their tax rate on their hotel is 5 cents. I was just looking that up. And is this correct? Hotel tax rate in Nashville is 15.25%.
It was increased significantly for the
Plus a $250 room per night occupancy tax. That's a lot.
Yeah, we're still going to be significantly below Nashville. I can't speak to
And
other
if,
rates.
and if they're sending people to Murfreesboro and they're making a boom on their conventions, they're at 5%. So I'll support it.
Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
No, sir.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes 7-1. Number 8, this is a public hearing consideration ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance to amend the City of Franklin Municipal Code Appendix A, comprehensive fees and penalties, Chapter 18, water and sewer fees for the purpose of updating water and sanitary sewer user fees and impact fees for 2026, 27, and 28. Does anyone want to speak to this body? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, entertain a motion.
So moved. So
Thank
moved.
you, Alderman Barnhill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson. I'm sorry? No? Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to new business. Item number 9 was Resolution 2025-38, a resolution of the Board, Mayor, and Aldermen for the City of Franklin adopting the estimate of revenues and expenditures for the Water and Sanitary Sewer Utility Fund for FY 2025-26. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Appropriate motion, second. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item number 10 is consideration of resolution 2025-40, a resolution to adopt a position classification plan and pay plan for employees of the City of Franklin, Tennessee. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Second by Alderman Peterson. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item number 11 is Resolution 2025-32, a resolution to recommend approval of the Safe Streets and Roads for Transportation Safety Action Plan, including a commitment to reduce serious injury and fatality crashes by 20% by the year 2040. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Potts.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts, excuse me. Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 12 is City of Franklin Contract 2025-0174 with Garney Construction for emergency Hobos pipe repair behind the Ewingville neighborhood in an estimated amount of $7,750,424. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Alderman Baggett.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 13 is Resolution 2025-50, a resolution declaring the intent of the City of Franklin, Tennessee to reimburse itself not to exceed amount of $15 million for certain projects expenditures with the proceeds of water and sewer system revenue bonds, notes, or other debt obligations to be issued by the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Barnhill. Is there a
Second.
second by Alderman Caesar? Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item number 14 is change order 2, final change order to City of Franklin Contract 2023-24 with Bell and Associates LLC for Bundle Bridges Project in the amount of $194,267.06.
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Alderman Caesar. Any discussion? You look like you're ready to vote. Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 15 is City of Franklin Contract 2025-0159 with AIG Franklin LLC, developer of the Margin District, for an escrow agreement for required project performance sureties. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Alderman Caesar, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Any other business needs to come before this body?
Motion to adjourn.
Appropriate motion, second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Hey, Patrick, I need to ask you.